crypto is doing some soul searching right now. Many folks who believed they were supporting a project that would revolutionize the world are realizing serious flaws in that thinking. Others are in denial, holding on to what little they have left and hoping that they were right all along. Joining us now to discuss, we have a chart here of Terra Luna. Obviously trading for less than a fraction of a penny right now. UST also far from its peg. Joining us now to discuss is Paul, a lot of zeros. Paul Brody, Ernst Young, Principal and Global Innovation Leader and CoinDesk contributor. Paul, thanks for joining us. So, it's interesting because, when people become religious about crypto and the project clearly fails, why do people continue to cling on to the project? At what point do you sever trust and confidence and let go and move on?
Hi, I'm sorry. The network froze here and I missed what you said. So if you just ask me again, I'll
yeah.
that.
So
I have a this time I don't.
So we're saying that, crypto, there's a lot of soul searching going on in crypto right now, and through a bull market especially, people get so religious about crypto and the project that they're working on. But when that project clearly fails, why do people cling on to it, cling on to the leader of the project as well? At what point do you sever trust and confidence and move on?
I think that's a really tough question. What I look for, and the reason why we're very focused at EY on the Ethereum ecosystem, is I'm looking for institutional maturity. It's not just one person. It's not just a cool idea. It's the broader institution. And what I talk to a lot about EY clients, what I talk to about my colleagues when they say, hey, look at this cool new thing. This seems really interesting. What I say is, okay, we should monitor those things. We should check them out. But the reality is that we have to be focused on the organizations that can be good stewards of this massive investment that we are making in an ecosystem. And if you look at the Ethereum Foundation and the Ethereum organization, they are triumph of incredibly boring stuff. Standards committees, organizational maturity, slow, repeated tests of the merge before doing the merge, right? This is everything you want in a stable, mature institution. And that's why you should let those things go on. But I think that I love the enthusiasm the blockchain ecosystem brings to these new organizations, but kind of betting your life on this stuff, it's not, and it's hard for me to tell you when you should give up, but I think you've got to look for a layer below and look at the people that are driving it, the institutional maturity and the mission-driven nature of it, to some of the others, which feel much more like, hey, I have a cool idea. I think it's worth some money. Let's go monetize it.
Well, Paul, just referring to the whole Terra Luna collapse, Do Kwon, who's the CEO of Terraform Labs that created Terra Luna, he's suggested a recovery plan. Now he wants to fork the project and raise money to boot. And this is barely like days. Like the billions of dollars have been barely like accounted for at all. And there's already talk of, moving on, let's raise some more money.
Hope springs eternal. That's all I can really say. I mean, I'm a part of an accounting firm and a professional services firm. So I would tell everybody else what I tell my friends and colleagues, which is you've got to do your homework. And doing your homework means looking for things like, do they have an auditor, right? Who's verifying the source of these funds? Has anybody examined this stuff? And I wouldn't park my money in a company that didn't have an auditor. I would invest tokens in a system that hadn't been audited, and I wouldn't do anything else without sign and verification. And it's not that there's any one particular auditor or third party that is better or worse than the others. The principle that matters is it has an independent third party who is committed to responsibly evaluating the solution actually evaluated. It's this principle of independence that matters so much when trying to get your hands around what is and is not a good investment of your time, your money, and honestly, something like in blockchain, it's an emotional investment as well. I'd be lying if I said I was not emotionally invested in this grand project that we're on.
Paul, that's great, but we have to remember this is that the majority, and not just the retail public, although certainly that is the case, but also the institutional market, they crypto's not exactly at the forefront of their radar. The blockchain is not at the forefront of their radar. They're kind of like passing interest in it still. After 12 years or so of this, that's what's happening. They see these spectacular blowups. They don't know the difference between, quite frankly, UST and USDT and USDC. As far as they're concerned, a crypto blew up and people lost billions. Whether or not it was blockchain related or not, they look at that, they just see the headline and go, nah, not for me. Does this kind of a catastrophe, and it is a catastrophe for many people who lost their life savings, does this kind of catastrophe set back adoption of blockchain technologies, adoption of cryptocurrencies in ways that, despite all the advances that are made in the technology, they can't overcome?
Not one bit. So very simply, I could do a global search and replace. I could tell you about pets.com, Cosmo.com, Webvan, right? So many companies in the early phases of the dot-com boom went bust. And people I worked with, and I was a McKinsey consultant at the time, I heard clients say things like, see, I told you people will never buy their groceries online. That just wasn't true. Today at EY, we are launching more blockchain products than we've ever done before. We are launching products that are for supply chain management, for assurance and accounting, for security testing. I believe, just like the internet, just like e-commerce, there's going to be all these ups and downs. It's not going to slow down adoption one little bit, because the people who do know, the people who do understand, are not deterred in any way. And so I think the amount of time it takes for the skeptics to get on board is going to be quite long. It always is, right? We have clients at EY today who are still evaluating a transition to the cloud. That is how these ecosystems work. You've got your early adopters, you've got your mainstream adopters, you have your late adopters. Those people are skeptics. They're going to wait for everyone else to go first. So I'm not distressed. I'm not deterred. I got 300 people downstairs that are waiting to talk about the future of blockchain and Ethereum, and they're not deterred either.
So, Paul, you're coming from a slightly different perspective from EY, but, a lot of the words that you're using, third parties, institutions, I understand the logic behind them, but in terms of the whole point of cryptocurrency, it's some people would argue that actually isn't, that's kind of not the point of cryptocurrency. So I guess, but the main question is, in terms of soul searching, putting aside some of the EY cases, where are the actual use cases of decentralized technology? I mean, we hear a lot of theoretical use cases, we hear a lot of niche use cases, but I think when Christine refers to soul searching, we're 13 years in, and there's just not a lot of use cases that people can talk about, and I'm talking about real use cases, not 10 people paying with Bitcoin because it's cool, right? I mean, could you just give us some concrete use cases that are somewhat mainstream and somewhat large scale? Because I think those are the responses that this industry needs to people who are like, what is the point of all this?
So you exactly nailed it on. We have a phrase here that we talk about, which is that we believe blockchains will do for networks of enterprises what ERP did in the single enterprise. And here's what I mean by that. ERP, companies installed these systems and they got the left hand and the right hand kind of connected up, and it drove gargantuan efficiencies, but it only worked inside the enterprise, inside the four walls of your enterprise. One CEO could say, hey, we're all going to use SAP, everyone's going to have the same numbers and the same process, and we're going to be very disciplined. When it comes to transacting with other companies, that's not possible, right? You can't make everybody else use your system. It doesn't work that way. And so the miracle that blockchain offers is the ability of complex business processes like supply chain management. Think about all the stops that your products make from manufacturing to the retail store. They're controlled by many different companies, right? Same thing for your phones or any of your electronics products, right? There's chips from one country, assembly another, distribution the third country, right? These are multi-stop, multi-company ecosystems. And the only way that they work together is by having a truly decentralized, independent system that can allow companies to transact with each other. What's holding all of this back, and the reason why I'm so passionate about this, what's holding all of this back isn't the fundamental vision or the value proposition, it's privacy. Nothing in standard blockchains is private. For all the stuff that this is built upon, and it's all built on cryptography, the material that we're moving back and forth, the data is not private. You know who did what, and if you have a smart contract and you can read it, you could see who was paying what for what. And that is anathema to large enterprises. And this is why,
quickly,
for the last 6 years, what we have been prioritizing. Can I just finish this one thing?
I just know you have to go in a minute. I want to ask you
fixing privacy. Okay, yeah, fixing privacy is the critical thing that we are trying to do because that's what unlocks all of this value. Sorry.
Sorry to interrupt you. I know you just have. I know you have a hard stop, so I just wanted to quickly ask you before you have to leave about this supply chain China project that you're working on.
So it's not a China-specific project. It's a supply chain project. We are just releasing for the first time our first product called Supply Chain Manager that allows you to do secure business transactions, to track inventory, and to do it on a public blockchain. And the reason this is possible is because we are going to start using Polygon Nightfall. And Polygon Nightfall is a layer 2 privacy-focused roll-up that allows you to have secure transactions that are fully private from your competition. And this is what we've been working on for 5 years. Today is a culmination of 5 years of work to make it possible for enterprises to use public blockchains for real business problems without compromising their secure, sensitive business information. That's the big achievement. That's why I'm so pumped, because I think we're really just getting ramped on the really big use cases.